Thank you, Mr. President. There is no clearer demonstration of the problems with politics in this country than the inadequate response and intentionally muddled debate about climate change. The announcement this week of the weak targets Australia intends to take to international negotiations in Paris is evidence of the continued failure to address the most serious threat to our future well-being. A quarter of a century ago, politicians and governments heard the clear scientific message that the emission of greenhouse gases from human activity was warming the globe and posed a serious threat to the people and ecosystems of the world, and leaders recognised we had the capacity to act. The responsibility and willingness to address the impact of human activity on climate environment was made clear by Margaret Thatcher to the United Nations in 1989, who said, "The evidence is there. The damage is being done. What do we, the international community, do about it? The environmental challenge that confronts the whole world demands an equivalent response from the whole world. Every country will be affected. No one can opt out. Those countries who are industrialised must contribute more to help those who are not." In the same year, Australian governments of all persuasions were all ready to act. A Senate inquiry warned that, quote, "There is a risk that if the response to this problem is delayed until the evidence of significant climatic change becomes irrefutable, it may be too late to avoid some of the more extreme changes that could occur. Early action is essential to stop or slow some of the more extreme effects." We were ready to deliver that early action. Prime Minister Bob Hawke's 1989 statement on the environment said, quote, "There is much more that can be done immediately to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuels. There is considerable scope for immediate action to enhance energy efficiency and energy conservation." In New South Wales, Liberal Premier Nick Greiner worked to develop a climate strategy based on alternative and renewable energy, government leadership on energy efficiency and restrictions on clearing native vegetation. As the 1990s began, Australia and New South Wales supported the Toronto targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% from 1988 levels by the year 2005. What happened next is documented in the work recently completed by Maria Taylor for her PhD at the ANU and now published in a book titled "Global Warming and Climate Change: What Australia Knew and Buried." Taylor's analysis shows how the scientific consensus and ethical commitment to act on climate change were actively undermined by those with vested interests in stopping changes to our energy use and industry, supported by politicians who work to serve their needs instead of the public good. For 2 decades, the Australian public have been misled to believe that we must maintain the status quo of an economy that relies on fossil fuels for energy and exports, that we can't take action because it would threaten our economy, when the reality is that our development can and must be sustainable for the health and well-being of future generations. The end result is that we're only seen occasional bursts of action on climate change that were undone as governments changed or priorities shifted. Instead of meeting the Toronto target, our 2005 emissions were essentially the same as 1988. An entire generation worth of action was lost. Tony Abbott's targets see us continue to lag behind the rest of the world and the trajectory supported by the earlier leaders. The most fundamental thing that we must do is look to the well-being of future generations. We don't achieve this by talking ourselves and the public into a belief that action is too hard and costly, especially when the stakes are as high as the future health of our planet. We can do it by ensuring our society is empowered and resilient, so that every generation can take advantage of the opportunities that come with change, that we can develop the new sustainable industries and technologies that provide jobs and ensure quality of life, that we adapt to the changes and impacts that will inevitably come. Governments at all levels have a duty of care to act on climate change. If we have faith in the capacity of our resilient and resourceful people, and if we set our commitments in legislation, we can all deliver on that duty.